GAC, hopefully you're doing well. Algebra 3. Hey, real quick, I'm wanting to be fast here tonight. Was not supposed to be a long process or like a huge review session, but I know that some people, I did this so that if people had questions tonight, that you could post those. If you do have questions, you could just shoot me a text at my number. Make sure that when you do that, you can maybe put a homework problem or something that you just had a question on from today's lesson. And if you need that, then please do that, and we'll go from there. I don't want to waste time, so I'm going to get started until viewers show up here. One thing that I wanted to look at was the following. This one right here states, I believe it says, hey, where's the vertex? Well, remember we talked about how the h comma k, we talked about h comma k, how that's the vertex. And when it's in vertex form, it becomes really easy. When it becomes a little more tricky, that's when we have it in a form such as follows here. Maybe it might even be f of x instead of y, either way. In this form, in standard form, to find the vertex, we do negative b over 2a. Once we get that, okay, we'll even do this one. We get negative 1 over 2 times a. A is 2. So we get negative 1/4. So that right there would be the h, so to speak, or the first part of our vertex. And to solve for the y, what we do is we plug negative 1/4 back in for x to solve for what the y is. That's standard form. Now, what if we had vertex form? That's actually a little bit easier because once I look at it, I know at the x minus 3, we think opposite to where we're going to go right 3. And then on the outside, the k, whatever you see is what you get, so 3 comma 1. So if I were graphing this, I'd actually go 3 to the right, and I would go up 1 right there. Now, since a is positive, we know that this is going to go upwards. Okay, it's going to go upwards. And we could do kind of the graph by doing x and y. And what I would do is just graph kind of a point there. So let's graph like 0 and 1. So if I plug 0 in, 0 minus 3 is negative 3 squared would be 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 18 plus 1 is 19. So really, that's way, way up there, okay? Probably way too far for what we're looking for. Now, if we did 1, that'd be a little better. 1 minus 3 would be negative 2. Squared would be 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. So we got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So about right in here. And so basically, if that's where we're at as far as 1 is concerned, we know we can go left 2, up 8. We'll go right 2, up 8 as well. We know that that's kind of the reflected portion there as far as our parabola goes, okay? Does not hit the x-axis. Where would it hit the y-axis? Well, again, in order to find that, we can multiply this out in order to get what we're finding there. Also, kind of something else just to kind of note here is let's do one off the homework here. Now, this one, yeah, this one's a good one. Okay, this one's a really good one. Let's do 2 of them. Okay, let's do 2 of them. Let's go number 1 and number 2. Okay. First of all, let's find what the vertex is. The vertex of this one would be 4 comma negative 1. Okay. In fact, I don't think I'm going to graph this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to write stuff out. To find the x-intercept, we plug 0 in for y. That means we set 0 equal to x minus 4 squared minus 1. So we could add 1 to both sides. Order of operations, 1 equals x minus 4 squared. We could square root. Now, if I square root both sides, right? Square root is squared, we get plus or minus on the other side. So we should have plus or minus 1 equals x minus 4. Now, if I add 4 and add 4, you'll notice 1, positive 1 plus 4 is 5, whereas negative 1 plus 4 is positive 3. So my x-intercepts should be at 5, 0 and at 3, 0. Now, where's the y-intercept? That's a really good question. To find the y-intercept, okay, so x-intercept, we plug 0 in for y. For y-intercept, almost got that backwards, plug 0 in for x, okay, flip-flopped. So we should have 0 minus 4 squared minus 1 equals y, or f of x. Negative 4 squared is 16. 16 minus 1 is 15. So really, the y-intercept would be 0 comma 15. So again, let me say that. X-intercept, you plug 0 in for y. Y-intercept, plug 0 in for x. Solve for the opposite variable there, okay? Now, where's the axis of symmetry? It's a good question. If I were to draw this, what it would be is we'd have it 3, 4, 5, 0, right? Next one would be at 3, 0. Want to make sure, where am I? 4, -1. Actually, this should be 1, 2, 3, 4, -1. Should be down here. I apologize. That should not be there. And then obviously 0, 16 is way up there, but you kind of get the idea that it's going in this direction, where the domain would be -infinity to infinity, range would be -1 to infinity up above, okay? We'll look at the next one a little bit more in depth. But the axis of symmetry is something I didn't really touch base on in the lesson, but that's the line that separates each side of the parabola. So that axis of symmetry, or the A of S we say, is x equals +4. So that's where it folds on top of itself. Whatever the x is of my vertex, you can assume that that will end up being what the axis of symmetry would be there, okay? All right, let's do one more, and then we'll go from there. Wanting to see no viewers right now, so hopefully this means that you got it. But just making sure that you do get it. Make sure I'm really trying to help you out as I'm out this week. All right, with the vertex, we can do -b over 2a, b being 4. So we'll do -4 over 2 times a being 2. So if I were to simplify this, -4 divided by 4 would be -1. Okay, now we've got to find what the y is. And to do that, we're going to plug this back in, okay? So we're going to say 2 times -1 squared plus 4 times -1 minus 3, okay? Minus 3. So once I do this, I'll do -1 squared, which is 1, times 2 is 2, okay? 4 times -1 is -4, minus 3. So 2 minus 4 is -2, minus 3 is -5, okay? So we got -1, -5 is my vertex. So we're going to graph that real quick. Now, is it going up or down? Well, because A is positive, we can assume it's going up. So how do we solve for what the y-intercept is? Well, we could solve for the y-intercept by plugging 0 in for x. Well, think about it. If I plug 0 in for x here, they get 0. 0 in for x here, get 0. So really, it would just be -3. It's pretty easy in standard form, a lot easier than normal. So 0, -3 is my y-intercept. Now, as far as my x-intercept, let me make sure, oh my word. Are you serious? That all that time. Oh, I'm so sorry, y'all. I did not even switch screens. I thought I had switched screens. I apologize. Dadgum. All right, so let's do this. Okay, let's do this. Okay. Let's do, that won't work. Let's do this in order to help out the process. And this is my fault. I see a viewer on there, and I was talking to myself. You're probably like, well, Coach, what are you doing? My fault there. If you're watching the podcast right now, you could just throw something up there if you have a question. I will go back through the questions that we have in a little bit. I apologize. I'll go back through those. Let me do this. I think you can kind of see the podcast. Let me see if you could see. You probably could see that now. Yeah, dadgummit, I'm sorry. Thank you for texting me. Appreciate that. I didn't even see who it was, but thank you so much. Man, that was huge help. I apologize for that. So let me go backwards here. Let me go back a little bit. So let me do these two are kind of what I'm focusing on. I did touch base on this one. However, this one's pretty simple. If you know how to do this one down here, this one's a piece of cake as well. So let me start with the one that's up on, the one that's the second one, the one that's 2x squared plus 4x minus 3, okay? And Travis, too, if you have questions on these, let me know. Let me walk through this, and then if you have, again, more questions on that, then we'll go from there, okay? All right, let me do this. I'm actually telling you right now, fast forward. Okay, perfect. Okay. So really what we're doing is when we come to this problem, we're looking and seeing what we can do to solve for the specific thing. So right now I'm trying to get my vertex and intercepts, both x and y intercepts. One of the things that I continually see individuals do is when they come to one that's in what we call standard form, okay? So this is our vertex form, or this one is more or less in standard form, okay? So those are the two differences here. Now, the one in standard form I find to be a little bit tricky because we've not really done it before. To find what the vertex is, we have to do negative b over 2a. It's kind of our formula, where a is 2, b is 4, and c is negative 3. So if I were to plug this in, I would get minus, and I plug 4 in, so negative 4 all over 2 times 2, or 2 times a. So it really is negative 4 divided by 4, which is negative 1. So that's how I got that negative 1 for my x. Now, in order to find the y, a lot of times you'll see f of negative b over 2a to find your y. What that means is I plug negative 1 back into my equation. In for x, you'll see it over on this side. Okay, let me get a different color. So everywhere you see x, I'm plugging negative 1 back in to find what my y is. Okay, so if I could find my y, I plug negative 1 back in to solve for that. So I just do PEMDAS. Negative 1 squared is 1, times 2 is 2. 2 minus 4 minus 3, so 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5, okay? So that's how negative 5 got put in for the y of my vertex. So that's how I got negative 1, negative 5 down below, okay? All right, perfect. Now, I've got my vertex. Let's continue. Now I need my intercepts. So to find my y-intercept, I plug 0 in for x. To find my x-intercept, I plug 0 in for y. So 0 goes in for y, x-intercept, 0 in for x is y-intercept. So if you look at that, to find the y-intercept, I plug 0 wherever I see x here, okay? So think about this, 0 times 2 is 0, 0 times 4 is 0. So really in standard form, it's easy. Whatever my c is, that will be my y-intercept. So that's how I got 0, negative 3. So that's where it crosses the y-axis. So I've got step number 2. Now step number 3 is a little bit tougher because now I'm plugging 0 in for y, so I've got to do a little bit of work here. 2x squared plus 4x minus 3. Now a lot of you use a times c method, which is perfect, but in order to accommodate everybody, I'm going to do the just the check and guess. So I know two numbers. I know one's got to be 2x, the other's got to be x to start it off. And the two outside numbers have to multiply to equal negative 3. So I could do like negative 3, positive 1, something of that nature. That's kind of what we're looking for. Positive 3, minus 1, something like that. And so as I think through this, trying to put some things together. Negative 3, positive 1. I don't know. I'm trying to see. It might end up being one of those quadratic ones, okay? Because I can't think of any of these. What I can do, though, is I can do the x equals negative b, so I could go straight to the quadratic formula, okay? So once I do that, when I can go to the quadratic formula, what I can do is x equals negative b, okay? So b being 4, so negative 4 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 16 minus 4, and a times c, which would be 2 times negative 3, okay? This is all over 2a, where a is 2, okay? All right, so negative 4 times 2 times negative 3 would be negative 4 times 2 times negative 3 would be 8 times 3 is 24. So 24 plus 16 would be 40. So this is really the square root of 40. So it's negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 40 all over 4. Now, in order to find this, in this case, we really want to get to the point where we find that decimal. Okay, so we're going to find that decimal. So negative 4 plus square root of 40, enter. Then I divide it all by 4, and I get 0.58. 0.58. Then I'll do the minus 1. So negative 4 minus square root of 40. And then I divide by 4. So I get negative 2.58 and 0.581. Okay, so again, 0.58, I'll just keep it as 0.58. X equals 0.58 comma 0. And the next one is negative 2.58 comma 0 as well. So really, you don't need to be particular on this. You just need to note negative 2.5 somewhere in that area. And the next one is 0.58. So it's something, so the graph's going to look something like this here. The toughest part is just doing all of it. I know it's a lot, and I get that. That's why I only gave you like 4 on there. But that's pretty much it. Now the other stuff's easy, because once I come to it, the axis of symmetry is what divides it in half. It's actually the vertical line. So this would be x equals negative 1, okay? X equals negative 1. So that would be x equals negative 1 as my axis of symmetry. I put a of s, okay, divides it in half. And then my domain, put it over on this side, domain. Furthest left is negative infinity, furthest right is positive infinity. Remember, domain is left to right in range. Low to high. My low being negative 5. This should actually be a bracket because it hits there. And the high is going to be infinity with a parenthesis there. So my domain, my range, axis of symmetry, x-intercepts, y-intercept, where are you? Where's my y-intercept? My y-intercept's 0, negative 3, and my vertex, okay? That's a lot of math. I understand that. But again, that's why we're only doing a few of these, and that's why I'm not giving you too many there, okay? All right. As I look at it right now, T. Rhombus, you're the only one here. So I'm going to give you kind of dibs on this. Do you have any questions that maybe you have going forward? If not, what I would like to do is just kind of touch base on this next one, x minus 4 squared minus 1, okay? So if we were doing it in, remember this is standard form and this is vertex form, okay? Because it's easier to find the vertex than this one. Whereas this one, it's more or less negative b over 2a, right? And then we plug in and go from there, okay? Now, what if I were to do this right here as far as the vertex? What could I do with the vertex on this going forward? Well, remember, we could think opposite on the inside. Whatever's on the outside is what we get there. So what we could do is actually get the vertex by doing the opposite, which should be 4, comma, whatever's on the outside we take. So 4, negative 1 is my vertex. This is the one I was talking through before I messed that up, okay? So as I'm graphing this, 4, negative 1 would be my vertex. I know it's going upwards because my a, or the value on the outside, is the exact same. So I'm going up in some direction. Now, how do I find my x-intercept? Well, I plug 0 in for y, right? How do I find my y-intercept? Well, I plug 0 in for x, okay? So if I start at the bottom, we'll be started from the bottom, now we're here, okay? If I'm really trying to solve for this, I'm going to plug 0 in for x up above. So what I get now is I get 0 equals, okay? 0 equals, oh, I'm sorry, I'm doing the other one, doing this one first. Y equals 0 minus 4 squared minus 1. So 0 minus 4, negative 4, squared would be 16, okay, because negative 4 squared, 16, minus 1 would be 15. So my y-intercept should be 0, comma 15, okay, 0, comma 15. All right, perfect. Now my next one is my x-intercept, where I'm going to plug 0 in for y. Now how can I solve for this one? Well, it's pretty simple because I'm just solving for x, right? So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Really, the next part is where it's tough. So now I get 1 equals x minus 4 parentheses squared. Well, how do I get x by itself? Well, I've got to square root all of this. And if I square root a squared, what I have is plus or minus 1 on the left equals x minus 4, okay? Just be careful. Make sure when you square root both sides, you do that plus or minus on both sides there, okay? And a square root's going. So then I add 4. So if I were to, let's say plus or minus 1 plus 4, 1 plus 4 is 5, and negative 1 plus 4 is 3. So my two x-intercepts should be 3, 0, and 5, 0. Okay, so I'm going to go 3, 0 right there, okay? and 50, which would be right in that area there. Okay? Perfect. So I got 30 and 50, and 0, 15 would be way up here. You don't have to worry about that. That's a-okay. So we know that the graph is going to look something like that. Okay? Now, just like we did before, how do I solve for the axis of symmetry, A of S? Well, we remember that the A of S divides this thing in half. So the 4, x equals 4, is the value that goes up and down. It will always be like an x equals value. That's the one that goes up and down. So x equals 4 is my axis of symmetry. Now, as far as my domain and range, my domain, okay, I'm sorry. Let me do this, backtrack. There you are. Fault, it's not letting me roll here. It's not letting me keep going, but when you get the idea, if you go domain and range, what you could do with the domain is the furthest right, or furthest left to furthest right, so negative infinity to infinity, and my range is low to high. So my range would be -1 to positive infinity there, okay? And again, if you have any other questions on that, I can go through that with you going forward on that one as well, all right? All right, well, y'all, thank you so much for viewing this podcast. Some of you may be watching it live. Some of you may be not. I know right now I have one value. I know Travis is in on this. If you are also in on it too, if you could please message me. That way I know that you are on the podcast and that you're working hard to be able to get that underway. Again, I apologize for the fact that I didn't start that until later. Again, if you need more help, please let me know, and we'll go from there, okay? All right, thank you all so much, and have a great day. Bye now.